Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Hi everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Horse Sense, and I'm super excited about this. This is pretty much a little intro video, little tease basically for the entire series that's going to be shared by the end of this year. So I'm really excited about it. I'm working on my studio, and so right now we're going to be in the barn doing most of these in the barn. So I want to go ahead and talk about a quick topic called PTSD in horses. I truly feel like this is a topic that has been overlooked and not talked about. Now, if you're in the horse world and you have a horse or have worked with horses, you know horses are creatures of habit. And whether that be a good habit or bad habit, they do not look at things like we do. However, they do possess certain things that we as humans possess as well. Friendship, partnership, following, being a leader, leadering, right? Leadering. They have a sense of family. And that's how people are. They don't like to be alone. People don't like to be alone. There is a difference between being 100% isolated and just having that like reclusive mentality. I have a horse, Chester. He likes to be reclusive. He thinks he's the king of his own pasture. That's just how he rolls. But because there's other horses in the distance, he doesn't feel entirely alone. So let's talk about PTSD here for a minute, okay? Now, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, all right? That's a very sensitive topic because I know a lot of people deal with it, okay? And PTSD is caused by a traumatic event in someone's life, and it's so traumatic that when, certain things in daily life or certain things, in life happens, it causes that person to have the same emotions and almost like a flashback of what has happened previously. And, I can't really say I've had PTSD before, but I've had anxiety, severe anxiety, where, when I was bullied in high school, when it came to really public events and it was like side by side, I had it really felt like I was back in high school in the aisle where I was pushed around, bullied by these kids. So I had that anxiety built up because I was like, oh my gosh, something bad's gonna happen. So I can relate to that extent. Okay, I can relate to having bad events happen to me that has caused me to be fearful of, of men. There's some things that I'm not very trustworthy of men about because of my experiences with men, unfortunately. With friends, I've had really bad experiences with friends. It's very hard for me to completely open up and be really close to people. So I have an understanding to these problematic horses that a lot of people may not have an understanding about. So I'm very grateful that I went through all that traumatic, horrible stuff in my life because God's really used it for a purpose. He used my pain for a purpose. So I believe it's our job as horsemen and horsewomen to be able to identify and recognize problems in our horses and figure out the why. We cannot look at our horse and say, you're a bad horse. It's not bad horse, it's not bad behavior, it's horse behavior. They cannot sit there and say, hey, look, I was beaten in the head. Don't touch my head. You don't know that until they're trying to bite your arm while you're touching their head or spooking or running away or whatever. Let's take two horses in my barn, for example, Sunny. Sunny, I believe, has PTSD when it comes to being rode. This guy had, every time that saddle would come out, when I first brought him here and when I first went to his place, his eyes would widen up, he would tense up and almost prepare for something bad to happen. And it was sad. It was really, really sad. Out here, he had the same thing, okay? And then when it came to the bridle, turns out when he was at his owner's place, she actually put the bridle on and he took off. She got about halfway on, I believe, and then he just took off, okay? That's a horse who knows and recognizes this thing hurt me in the past, so I need to get away from it before it even happens. I know we've all experienced that in some form or fashion with our horse. And you can't help but step back and be like, oh, really, dude, it's not gonna hurt you. You don't know what had happened to that horse to cause him to be like that, okay? That's the last thing you wanna hear is when you are having a hard time with something and someone look at you and say, really? It's not that big of a deal. That makes you feel belittled and it makes you feel like your voice is not heard. Now, I'm curious if you've ever dealt with a horse who's been shut down. I call them robotic horses. Those are horses who've had literally the life sucked out of them, and they have no voice. That's the last thing you want, is for your horse to have no voice in a relationship. I've personally been in relationships where I've had no voice, and it has led me to very, very dark places. To a point to where I don't want to do anything. I don't want to give. When our horse gets shut down because they're trying to voice something and they get shut down, you're going to be able to miss so many things when it comes to your partnership with your horse, when it comes to training your horse. You're going to miss so many different things because that horse is not going to feel like they have a voice. And that might sound, and I'm not trying to be holistic, natural, I'm not trying to sound, tree hugger type deal here. I'm being completely honest with you. Horses have a voice. And whether it be bucking, bucking is them saying something. Biting is them saying something. Kicking is them saying something. And it's our job to identify what they're trying to say. All right, now let's jump back to PTSD here. Let's see here. Now, I have found that with my time with horses, problematic horses specifically, that they can possess that PTSD mentality, especially ones who have had that physical abuse. So I want to identify a little bit on how we can, touch base on how we can recognize the difference between fear and ignorance, okay? Pure ignorance versus fear, because there are differences. So let's talk about that for just a second here. So the difference between a horse who's fearful and one who simply does not know is their reaction versus action towards that item, towards that place, and towards that ask that we are asking of them. So when a horse truly does not know, let's talk about that. When a horse truly does not know, their body language says it all. Okay, their expression might be more of, what is that? They might blow out a little bit, do that snort. Their ears will flick back and forth, and they're gonna have a sense of try about them. When a horse is fearful of something, their sense of try goes from this to maybe this. Instead of them trying, they jump strictly to fight or flight, which is straight up instinct. Now, they might have that little ounce of try, okay? But their body language compared to the ignorance is tense. They're tense. They're preparing for something bad to happen. When you see that horse start to prepare for that bad thing to happen, you know that that's a trigger for something. That something has happened to that horse. When a horse does not know, they tend to not be so tense up. They tend to not be so scared right off the bat, okay? They tend to have that sense of curiosity versus instinct. And that's something that people who've worked with enough horses understand. Everything in the horsemanship community, in the horsemanship industry, in the horsemanship world is pure experience. You may feel like taking a step back is almost a sense of failing, okay? That's not true at all. By taking a step back and realizing that there is a problem here at hand, you are analyzing the whole picture. You're seeing why this horse is acting the way he is during this time. And that is wise. That's not stupidity. You pushing through that and cowgirling up, cowboying up, that's stupidity. A horse does not care about what title you got, what buckle you got on your belt, or how many years you have. What they care about is how you're going to treat them in that time. Remember, you do not want to ruin their mentality to the point to where they have no voice. Okay? Remember, horses have layers. All right? So once you get through one layer, you might look down and say, "Oh, here's another problem." Okay, it's not taking a step backwards. Remember that. You're not going backwards. You're peeling each layer. And each layer might bring in another little problem that you have to fix. So just kind of look at it like this. When you have a problematic horse, their foundation that they're built on is broke. What do you got to do when a foundation's broke? You got to rebuild. You got to fill in the gaps with something stronger. So when you're dealing with a horse that has problems to the point to where they are fearful or fearfully ignorant, you got a lot of holes to fill, y'all. There's a lot of things to do, but it's not impossible. That's where you come into play. What do you truly know about horses? What do you truly know about horse-to-horse communication? So you might be asking, how do we fix these problems with PTSD with our horses? Well, that comes with time. Time and good habits, okay? Now, for Sonny, what I've been doing with him is simply getting him accustomed to good experiences with the saddle. The bridle's gonna come down the road. We're not gonna worry about that right now because we've just overcame one problem. I have to be wise and pick one problem at a time, all right? So let's talk about Stella, for example, okay, that my little Mustang, all right? She had issues with you touching her face. Big time issues with you touching her face. You couldn't even touch her poll, her ears. It was crazy, all right? And you know, it was kind of frustrating after a while because you're like, oh my goodness, we've desensitized, we've done this and this and this. I went out about, 7 months later, and her eye was literally blown out of her socket. And it was the most traumatic thing I've personally ever experienced. And I took her to the vet, obviously, and they explained to me that she had an ulcer, the very lower part of her eye, that it had exploded. And that ulcer was caused by blunt force trauma to the head. We believe that that was from her when she was rescued, during her rescue, because she was rescued from Horse Haven of Tennessee, and, from a very, very bad situation. So from what we're believing is that there was some physical trauma to Stella, which explains so much to me, because working with her, she's got a lot of triggers, y'all. That mare's just got a lot going on. But nonetheless, she's a prime example of me taking a step back and recognizing that something happened to cause this horse to be so nervous about someone touching her head. Now we know why. And it could have been from pain, just like don't touch, there's a lot of pressure buildup, or her fear of someone actually hitting her. As soon as that eye was removed, because they had to remove the eyeball, she allows me to touch all over her face now. So I do believe there was some pressure buildup that was very uncomfortable for her, but at first she definitely was just scared, So, the biggest thing to fixing a horse with PTSD, okay, is simply helping them heal. It's not a snap of the finger. It's just like with people. We can't sit here and say, hey, listen, Jill, you're fine, get over it. No, we all wish we could do that, okay? When I have depression, because I have clinical depression, okay? And whenever I'm into a spell, all right, it's challenging. It's really hard to explain. It's, a day I might be like, I can't even get out of bed, or I'm having really hard motivation, and I'm just really down, I need to cry. And I remember I was with the guy at one point, and he said, just get over it. And I looked at him and I was like, you fool, are you kidding me? Like, how dare you tell me just to get over it? And it made me self-reflect on horses, how we expect them to get over things like that. 30 days, get over it. 2 weeks, get over it. 1 session, get over it. We cannot expect that out of our horses. We need more mercy and less expectations. Some horses cannot be helped, period. Just like some people cannot be helped. Not every single horse is going to be a good riding horse. Not every horse is going to be a riding horse. Will Stella ever be a riding horse? Y'all, I have no idea. Because there's a very good chance her other eye could go. Okay, which isn't a detrimental thing, because hello, I work with blind horses, so that couldn't have been planned any better. But we cannot expect our horses to be perfect and snap out of problems, because we ourselves can't do that. So have more mercy with your horse, first and foremost, okay? So, just have the mercy and take your time. Take your sweet old time. When you get a problematic horse or a rescue horse, whether it be from a kill pen or a legitimate nonprofit rescue, you already take that chance and that acknowledgement that there are problems that you don't know. That there is a slight chance that something had happened in their past that you could be facing later on. So, you have to create good habits to outweigh the bad habits. Because over time, good habits will break the bad, okay? we all, like for us, we all have sin. We all have an addictive sin that is caused by a habit, okay? Whether it be negative talk, that's me. I self-attack a lot, okay? And that's a very bad habit. So I have to create good habits. Think, girl, you got this. I feel great. What's good about me today? What can I be thankful for today? Okay, that's like with the horses. They have bad habits, but we can outweigh that with good habits. So self-reflect. When you're working with your horse or you have another problem, take a step back. Not just analyze your horse, but analyze yourself as well. And I promise you, as soon as you put yourself in your horse's shoes, get it? You tend to have a better understanding and a more merciful mentality and attitude. At least I hope you do. All right. So we're going to leave off on that note. All right. And I will be posting a lot more podcasts. I'm so excited. Oh my goodness. To get all this stuff going. There's really, really big plans for this. So please stay tuned for more episodes. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions or need any kind of assistance, no matter where you are in this world, please feel free to contact me. I would absolutely love to help you and your horse have a better communication. Thank you all so much and happy trails.
I know it's hard to hear it when that anger in your spirit is pointed like an arrow at your chest. When the voices in your mind are anything but kind, and you can't believe your father knows best. I love you just the way that you are. I love the way he's shaping your